Okay, welcome to GRAR's 3 on 3 at 3 for January of 2024. This will be a leadership update, and there's really no good theme to place on this today because it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this. So just some of the things that are, let's just say, boiling today or hot or warming that we just want to make sure we take time to cover. So let me introduce the panelists today. We actually wondered if our immediate past 2023 president was going to be able to be with us today because he is a brand new daddy of Maisie Jude. Did I say that correctly?
You said it correctly.
And how old is she now?
4 days.
4 days. So he took a break, figured he could get more rest here, perhaps, than he could at home. So welcome to Walter Perschbacher, our 2023 president. Our 2024 president is Paul Bunce, who's been traveling the country with his kids and sports and activities because he's got some really talented kids. And we have Scott West, our 2025 president. So he's our president-elect this year, and Scott's busy riding tractors and playing with horses, and in addition to his real estate time. So that's a quick intro. And I think I'd like to kick it off by first asking if there's anything you want to lead off with before we start. Any opening comments from any of you?
President?
Oh, I think it's
Or we can get right into the issues.
I think our goal was to touch base on things that are happening in both at GRAR, at MAR, and at NAR.
Yep.
So a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Yep.
So with that, let's start first by talking about the NAR lawsuit. We seem to get a lot of comments about that. It's quieted a bit, but in light of some recent events again at NAR, it's kind of made headlines again. And Walter, I'm wondering if you could touch on that for us.
Sure, I'd love to. All of you have heard about there's multiple lawsuits. There's not just one that have been going on with NAR and the Realtor brand in general. The most pressing or most interesting one was probably the Sitzer-Burnett case. And believe it or not, we got a ruling in that Halloween of last year. So it's been that long since we had the ruling, but we still have yet to see anything really come out of that in terms of any real actionable items and what that really means. None of us know for sure what's going on behind closed doors or where it will be, but from both attending NAR, NXT, and getting the update directly from NAR, as well as attending several different webinars of larger real estate associations that we're a part of, most of what I'm hearing is that in any big antitrust lawsuit, whether it's in this industry or another, a lot of times what you'll end up seeing is settlement, right? And having a case settled. And so the fact that we haven't seen anything come out beyond the jury's decision, we haven't had the judge rule on it, we haven't had the judge make any statements about it, leads a lot of people to believe that NAR and their team are working on some sort of a settlement in that Sitzer-Burnett case. Most impactful, in my opinion, is that it's really important right now that you understand that this is taking place, that you're educated on it so you can talk about it if questioned about it. But as of right now, it has not impacted the way we do business. And so it really is just a lot of noise. And you have to be able to tune out that noise because, quite frankly, there's nothing we can do locally to adjust, change, or affect what decisions they're working on or where they're going to be. Yes, you should be looking at practices that you've been doing around buyer agency and how you talk to your clients about buyer agency and how you're compensated for that and how you represent them in it. That is all important. GRAR's been doing a nice job putting out information around the difference between implied agency and exclusive buyer agency and how those work and function. I think you should be practicing that if you have not and working on that. But ultimately, right now, business is still being done the way it's always been done, and all the headlines that come out are just, again, sort of distraction and noise from what we do on a daily basis. We work hard for our clients. We provide a service that has value. We should get compensated for that. If we need to adjust in the future what that compensation looks like, we will. We're adaptable. We've done it before. So at this point, I think it's important to know that A, it is taking place so that if a client or customer asks about it, you can speak to it. somewhat intelligently, but it hasn't affected how we do business. So best case scenario, on the day-to-day, I think you need to be doing what you can to go out and take care of your clients and customers at the highest level possible, continue to be a professional, and prove to them why it is important to be a realtor and a member of important organizations like BRAR, MAR, and NAR.
Interestingly, on a follow-up on that, the Michigan Association, Michigan Realtors, Michigan Realtors develops its own forms, and it recently redid the buyer agency form, buyer agency contract. And when we received it and I did my comparison, and somebody had said to me, well, what's different? I don't see anything about where I can accept what the seller's offering me. And I said, well, no, look at a different paragraph. So there's two paragraphs. And it actually, for those of you who were using the GRAR buyer agency form, dated prior to 2003, we have always addressed buyer agency compensation the way MR just adopted within the last month. So not a slam on MR by any means, just an indication that we've been doing it right for a long time. It talks about how you're going to be compensated. It's the buyer's responsibility, the options, whether they're going to pay you outright, whether or not the seller is going to contribute, whether or not the cooperating agent is going to contribute. So for those of you who have been using that agreement, we feel really confident that that's going to help us in the long run.
I think that's important too to point out, Julie. Thanks for bringing it up. That for once, we always like to joke that on the coasts things will start and then make their way to the Midwest, and this is one of those examples where it's actually going the opposite direction. We, at least in West Michigan, and this is an example of where real estate still is local, have been using exclusive buyer agency very regularly for a couple of decades now. It's not even like a couple of years. It's into the decades, and we take that a little bit for granted because we only do real estate for the most part locally. Understand that it isn't done that way everywhere, and that's part of where this has come out from. So the idea that yes, our contract has addressed it, the fact that we have used exclusive buyer agency primarily and regularly has us that much further ahead of where some of the other parts of the nations are starting to adapt with what this concept may mean, look like, and feel like for them and their client consumer.
Good. Was a bit alarming when I read back some of the trial or hearing transcripts, and the testimony of one agent said, well, yeah, I promote the fact that I work for buyers for free because the seller pays me. So I always say I work for free. Well, glad we don't do that. Haven't been doing that. So let's stay with the NAR topic for a minute. Scott, I know NAR has an outreach program that you have been looking into, researching, participating in. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we actually had the opportunity, all three of us, to go to NAR this year out in California. And one of the hot topics that they were, I think, most excited to introduce was a program called Ignite Others. And what I really enjoyed about it is we have actually, at the local level, been talking about this for a few years now with the Education and Professionalism Task Force. The idea of this program is it's a financial literacy and financial wellness program where they're going to send realtors out to local high schools on an outreach program to teach high schoolers, and in many cases, high schoolers who never had the vision that they could be homeowners, about what it's like to be a homeowner, what it takes to be a homeowner, to have financial wellness, to have financial literacy. So it's a program that NAR is trying to roll out at a national level. They're going to have grants and all sorts of tools for us to use, and it's something that we are just now starting to explore at a real serious level at the leadership, and hopefully something that we can roll out here in the next year or two.
Sounds great. I think we all assume parents are giving that kind of education at home, but no slam on parents because I don't think I did a good job of that either. Not the thing you often think about. So good. We'll keep.
Great opportunity for realtors to become leaders in their community, which is something at GRAR that we push regularly. You know, get out and be a leader in your community. So this is going to be just another opportunity for us to do so.
Nice reason to be out there. Let's move to some Michigan Realtor updates. Paul, I think you currently serve on the Public Policy Committee at the State Association. They've been talking for probably at least a year, I think, about changes to the Michigan Land Division Act. Tell us what you know there.
Yeah, so as many of you know, the Land Division Act allows so many splits on a parcel. The goal is to change that from 4 splits allowed to 20. So the idea behind this is it can help with housing density, housing affordability, and availability that we have in our industry right now, where we're trying to find creative avenues to allow people to be able to build the types of homes that they want so that they can enjoy home ownership. You know, a house doesn't look the same, or home doesn't look the same to everybody. Sometimes it can be a very small home on a very small lot. People would love to just have the ability to buy that. It could be a large home on a large lot. It's different for everybody, whether that's a condo or a townhome or a co-op type situation. There's lots of opportunities for home ownership, and this is one of the things that Michigan Realtors is working on to help advance that along.
Nice. Anything else coming out of public policy that we should be aware of? It's an election year. We know that.
Yeah, so it is an election year. Lots to do in public policy and RPAC trustees. There is an additional hour of Con Ed that is required this year. Not additional, included within your current 6 hours, but one of those hours has to be a fair housing credit. So much as the 2 hours need to be legal, 1 hour now will need to be a fair housing credit, which again, it's not an additional hour, it's included in your current hours that you're doing. So that's a change that's happening. Lots of things along affordable housing that we're doing locally, which we'll get into here in a minute, but yeah.
Good, thank you. So yeah, you started on the affordable housing thing. Let's just pick up on that. There have been a lot of efforts over the years when we've talked about affordable housing, more like available housing. Because we have a lot of people that can afford it, but it's not available. So it's really a combination of both of those things. GRAR's been involved in this, and we continue to partner with others. Who would like to talk about that? Is that a Paul thing?
Yeah, I can talk about that. So GRAR is partnered with a group called Housing Next, which Housing Next takes into consideration all of the stakeholders locally that are pushing toward the same goal of housing affordability and availability, really. And how do we work to accomplish that goal within all of the different levels of government locally, all of the different organizations of whom that benefit from that. So Housing Next has a full-time staff member. Her name is Brooke Osterman, and she her sole job is to promote that throughout all the different levels of government and to promote housing availability and affordability through zoning change, through like we talked about, different types of housing types that people are maybe not allowed a lot of places right now. It could be mobile home or modular housing or townhomes and many different things that they're looking at to try to increase that availability of housing out there so that the dream of home ownership can be there for everybody.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. This is an actionable item for you to take away from today. If you haven't gone to housingnext.org, housingnext.org, please do. You can sign up for a newsletter, and they send it out, I believe, monthly, and then they'll send out important updates of what they're working on. Brooke is a force to be reckoned with. She's a real proponent of our industry and what we're trying to do. And they send out really great statistical data that talks about affordability, availability, and what's needed. The number keeps going up, so I may be off here, but I believe if based on all of the research they've done, all the data they looked at, we need something in the range of 30 to 35,000 more housing units in the next 5 years. And that's at all price levels. And so this isn't just specifically about affordable housing, it's all types of housing. As Paul was pointing to, how do we get strategic about producing more inventory at all kinds of different market levels to help people find what they need. And what's really cool about it is it's really like almost like a public-private partnership where people are coming together to look at this with different ways to do it, but also then advocate for it. And it's really boots on the ground, whereas Brooke and her team are literally going to township meetings, city council meetings, wherever there might be a development that's going in that could help us find more inventory. for our clients and customers. They're there to advocate why this is good for that community, why it's needed, and how it can help. And so if you take nothing else away from this video, please do go to housingnext.org, sign up for that newsletter. It will give you valuable, powerful local information about what's going on in the market that you can share with your clients.
And if I can add to that, the other thing it does is gets your contact information in their system, because one of the things that they do when there's a project that's being considered is they organize a local group of yes in my backyard, so that it's not a room full of no one not in my backyards. So you can be part of that and that group that goes to talk about why it's a good idea. So they organize the employers from that area that need local housing for their employees at an affordable and available level. So they don't go by themselves. They organize a lot of people so that we can kind of offset the not in my backyard. So it also puts on record, therefore, your contact information. So if there's something going on in which you can help or participate, they would call upon you for that as well.
I think it's important to note that it's all of our jobs as realtors to promote this at our local levels as well. We all live in different locations, and so we're able to get boots on the ground in many of those different jurisdictions where we need to start pushing some of this affordable and available housing initiatives, whether that's through zoning change, whether that's through different types of developments being allowed, multifamily housing, all different types of housing, that it's our job to be out there and talking to all of our elected officials to make sure that they understand fully what's happening. It's taken decades and decades to get to the point that we are, and it's going to take a long time to undo some of the things that are prohibitive in our industry right now. So we need to keep that in mind, that it's all of our jobs to get out there and to help move this forward.
Great. We talked recently in one of the board of directors, several of the board meetings, about technology, and it continues to expand, it continues to change, it continues to evolve. Kind of a quick overview of the latest and the greatest is everybody's talking about AI. Scott, you want to talk about what we're perhaps thinking about on a local level?
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna expand on it even further. We got to go to conferences at the state level and the national level, and without question, the number one topic at local, state, and national levels was AI throughout the year, all the way back to January 1st. It was like they were talking about AI at everything. And one of the things that was interesting is they were talking about AI from a perspective that a lot of realtors may be fearful of, that AI is there to take their jobs away. And almost every conference that we went to, they tried to dispel that notion that AI is here to put us out of business, and really emphasize the importance of AI is to allow us more time to do what we do best, which is connect with our customers. So that was really refreshing to hear these people at really high levels in the real estate community talking about not being afraid, that they're excited about AI and what it's going to bring. So of course, at the local level, we brought those back from these conferences, and we spent a portion of our planning session talking about AI. And one of the things that came out of that was the idea of putting together a tech task force. So we're currently exploring what that looks like. It's very early stages, but we'd like to put together a potential tech task force that looks into not only AI, but all sorts of new technology that's rolled out, and try to see if there's something that we can bring to our local association that'll improve all of our lives and utilize AI in a way that puts us in front of our customers.
Nice. Thank you. So statewide MLS efforts. How long have we been talking about that?
Forever.
What's the latest?
I'll give my perspective and then let you guys weigh in. Statewide MLS. So I guess the best way to paint this picture is, yes, we've been talking about it in a variety of ways, shapes, forms, under this greater regionalization concept for, well, again, decades, not just years. And there's been some really great movement towards that in terms of data share that's been opened up. You should notice that in your MLS search. You're able to get different drop downs and search different areas. So we've made some steps that way, but there's still a lot of barriers that we have to overcome. And so the way I like to look at it is you as an agent, it's your job to go find clients and then service clients at the highest level. And our job, the association, when we're elected leaders, is to do things that allow you to do that at an easier and higher level. And so one of the ways that we can help do that is by creating a larger area for you to do work in as well as to connect with. And so I think one of the things that we look at the board of directors level is how do we start to break down barriers that currently exist that we as an industry have created ourselves, not that actually are there. And what's amazing about that is when you look at it from either an association level or an MLS level, we have certain rules that are created that make it look like we do business more differently than we do business. And those rules can specifically hinder how you find properties, where you do business, and how you have access to it. And so our whole goal at the association has been, how do we make it more easy or more better, more simple for you to be able to go out and do your jobs better? And part of the way that we believe that is by breaking down these artificial borders that don't need to exist between both data and rules and regulation. And so Julie and her team, the board of directors, has been working really diligently to focus on how do we start to come up with a common set of rules, and then how do we get a larger group of people who want to come together with those rules to create a statewide data share. Again, the simple concept is your real estate license allows you to do business anywhere in the state of Michigan. Why should you not have access to all of the data in the state of Michigan where you're allowed to where you're licensed and allowed to practice work? So we're working hard to form partnerships, alliances, and work with other people that feel the same way, that say we as an industry are better when we control our data better and when we eliminate some of these rules, regulations, and boundaries that we've put upon ourselves that don't really help us or the consumer moving forward.
Interestingly, a quick follow-up on that is one of the more commonly asked questions we get at the help desk or at our Facebook group. As we develop, let's call it data sharing, there are a lot of things that go on with data sharing, data mapping. Is it in the same database? Is it in a separate database? So you have to do the drop down to get to it. Often some of you will say, oh my gosh, I'm getting all these different properties in my daily hot sheets. Now I'm getting properties I don't want. You're really going to have to, as we continue to map data into the central database, it will mean that you have to set your parameters and customize your hot sheet based on what you want it to look like. So if you want to, I think most of you have just a general hot sheet set up where it just brings in all the new listings. Well, if you're getting all the new listings, now you're going to see all the new listings from all over the place. So if you want just a certain area, you can go into the hot sheet, customize it, and you can customize it by school district, by area, by municipality. It gives you all kinds of options where you can say, this is where I want to see properties or new listings or changes or price reductions in my hot sheet on a daily basis. So you're going to want to go customize that. Don't customize it based on association. So in other words, if you customize it and say, I want just Grar or I want just Mishrick, you will lose, for example, properties in somebody in Traverse City that perhaps listed a property here in the greater Grand Rapids area, and vice versa. That's kind of why we're doing the data mapping. So don't restrict it to an association or an MLS. Restrict it based on territory and geography.
Julie, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with Rent Spree?
Sure. For those of you, again, who don't often go into when you go into the MLS, you go into Flex, if you hit the menu and you look at your products option, there are a whole lot of third-party products that are now integrated and have been, many of them for a long time, into the MLS. One of the more recent additions is Rent Spree, which is totally free to you, or let's just say any cost of it is included in the fees you're already paying, so we absorb that. But the beauty about Rent Spree is that, especially if you own your own properties, this is an ability for you to screen tenants. In fact, they end up paying for it because they fill out an application through Rent Spree, which is available to anyone with whom they might be making application with. So the tenant does it, the potential tenant does it once, but you get access to that. And it's at their cost, not your cost. You can do all kinds of things like manage your income. I mean, you can pick and choose. There's so many options between using that as your database for rental income, for reports, for finances. It has information that you can send to tenants about the importance of making sure they maintain insurance on the personal property. And if they don't have it, this gives information on where they can get that. And you can get it right through Rent Spree, if nothing else. So there's all kinds of fascinating things. It's also something you can use for your clients and customers who are involved in investment properties. So it's a really, really neat addition to the MLS for those of you who specialize in that arena, or for those of you that just own some rental property and want to use it. So take time to take a look at that.
There's so many agents that own rental properties. I think it's just a nice added tool. It reminds me of how growing Grand Rapids is and West Michigan is. We're in this growing, blossoming community. And so we have to be thinking about how we can offer more tools. When you look at cities like Chicago, their realtors are heavily involved with things like leasing. And so we're sort of shifting into new areas where you can specialize in, which I think is great.
It's a conversation we probably, and we've had before, at what point do we deal with rentals? We see our Facebook group, that's the one exception to the needs and wants and posting about real estate at our Facebook group. We see a lot of needs and wants and available rental properties posted there, and it seems that should probably at some point take on some more structure. I think that's probably something we'll take a look at as well.
I think to close this thing out, I mean, we have two of the top real estate agents in the association here, two great leaders. I think, like we do with the new agents, we should give one tip or one thought for what we're going to focus on in 2024 to be most successful. Since I'm springing this on you guys, I will go first, and then we can go from there. How's that sound?
It's great.
Steal their idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be fine.
I'll rehash one from earlier, and then it won't be stolen. Okay. I said earlier, tune out the noise, and I think that's really, really going to be important in 2024. There's somebody that is a motivational speaker and a leader that I like to follow who says, what your eyes see and what your ears hear is what feeds your brain. And I think that's important to remember. So let's turn off the noise that you can turn off. Those things you can't control, those things that aren't adding value, that aren't adding positive energy to your brain. Let's get those tuned out, number one. And then number two, let's understand there will be headlines. There's going to be more headlines. These lawsuits are not over. They're not going away. If there is a settlement or isn't, there's going to be more headlines that come. And it is incumbent upon you to bring the humanity to the headlines. That is what your responsibility is to better unpack what that quick sound clip was and what was meant when they heard it, because people are going to be looking at you for leadership that way. And so if you can tune out as much noise as possible, and if you can then bring that humanity to the headlines that come through, both within your offices and within your sphere of influence, your client base, I think you're going to be successful this year, because I think it's going to be another really strong year, a challenging one, but a really strong year for real estate in West Michigan. Let's not forget, we're still in a great market that has prices appreciating, which is good for both buyers and sellers, because everyone wants to own an appreciating asset, not a depreciating asset.
We should coin that. Tune out the noise. That's going to be our motto.
I'm sure I stole it from somebody, so it's probably coined.
That's from the R&D department. Mine would be sharpen your pencil. And what I mean by sharpen your pencil is make sure that you are using the tools available to you so that you're protected should any of these lawsuits come to fruition, so should changes happen because of those. It's in your best interest and in all of your agents' best interest to continue to use those forms and make sure that they're well educated in how to use those forms and what it means if they're not using those forms. There's a lot of noise out there, as Walter mentioned, in regards to that, and it's critically important that everybody is operating in a way that's safe. I want everybody to get paid on the deals that they do. This is one of the critical things in our world of what we do, and you work hard for the money that you earn, and I want you all to be paid when you deserve to be paid for those jobs that you do. And that leads me also to finding new income sources. So We touched a little bit on residential leases. We have a whole side of our MLS that's dedicated to residential leases that is sadly underutilized, that we could be adding inventory out there. We could be adding opportunity for many of our agents to be experts in those areas. And we have a whole new source of income that could be coming in for all of those agents out there to utilize that side of our MLS. It's something that already exists. It doesn't require any additional effort on your part other than going and getting the clients and make sure that they're in there. So I think that that's an awesome opportunity.
Great. One of the things that we're doing at my brokerage for the year, we actually made this our theme, is looking at all these, as Walt's described them, as distractions, all the noise that's happening, and we're looking at it as an opportunity. So it's an opportunity to focus on our value proposition. And I think all realtors could improve on this. I think most of us could really, really improve on it. For years, especially on the buyer side, we haven't had a sharp value proposition as to what we're bringing to the table. And some of these distractions and news and lawsuits are making me realize, hey, as a brokerage, as an agent, I need to better know what my value proposition is for my customers, what I bring to the table. So I view this as an opportunity just to come out of the other end stronger.
Great, great advice. That's going to be a wrap for today. I've said it so many times, we are blessed here at GRAR to have just quality leadership over many years, and that continues yet today with not only these three gentlemen, but our current board of directors that's serving you in 2024. Make it a great year. Thanks, everybody.